Todd Rundgren is here, instrumentalist, songwriter, pioneer in electronic music, recording engineer, producer, video maverick, computer software developer, conceptualist, consultant, interactive artist, and CEO is just a brief list of his exorbitant talents. Rundgren began playing guitar as a teenager and formed his first band at the age of 16 called Money. The group Woody's Truck Stop led to the formation of the Nazz in 1967 and the hit single Hello It's Me before he left 2 years later. He became the in-house engineer and producer for Albert Grossman's Bearsville Records prior to forming Runt, which was basically the beginning of his solo career in 1970. The following year, he scored with the classic We've Gotta Get You a Woman. Todd engineered the band's Stage Fright album and brought his production expertise to Badfinger, Meatloaf, Grand Funk Railroad, The Tubes, Cheap Trick, Hall & Oates, XTC, The Psychedelic Furs, and Patti Smith, among others. Not only a hit songwriter with tunes like Can We Still Be Friends, I Saw the Light, Bang on the Drum All Day, The Want of a Nail, and the above-mentioned Hello It's Me and We've Gotta Get You a Woman, he also composed for TV, off-Broadway, and film with the soundtrack to Dumb and Dumber, for which he received BMI's Film Composer of the Year award. The year was 1974 when Utopia came together, which produced music that defined the genre known as progressive rock. For some artists, that would have been a fulfilling career, but not for Rundgren. He had just begun to scratch the surface. He added to his credits his knowledge for programming personal computers, developing products, to interactive music, to enhanced CDs, and he composed, produced, and performed the world's first interactive audio-only CD-ROM project. Rundgren has won awards from the Academy of Interactive Arts and Sciences and Best Interactive Disc of the Year from Video Magazine, both of those for his New World Order disc. He also received the Berkeley Lifetime Achievement Award from UC Berkeley. Todd hosted a radio program, The Difference with Todd Rundgren, which led to a weekly online radio show he called Music Nexus. He launched Waking Dreams, a collective that developed creative ideas in marketing commodities. He's toured with Ringo Starr's All-Star Band and with Ann Wilson of Heart, Alan Parsons, and the late John Entwistle of The Who as part of the Beatles tribute, A Walk Down Abbey Road. All that, and this man with his wealth of diversity founded Patronet, which is an innovative device that lets users subscribe to music offered directly from websites with no middleman at all. Bright, versatile, and extremely talented with a wide spectrum of arts and projects, his limitations are limitless. And I'm joined by Todd Rundgren, and welcome.
My limitless limitations. That was a mixed metaphor. I thought I was going to have to take a nap there.
Yeah, well, you know what? I'm just reading through. This list of achievements is just overwhelming. I mean, the list continues. First interactive TV concert broadcast as it happened. First national broadcast radio concert in stereo. Directed and produced the first music video to use live action and computer graphics. Time Heals, the title. And the second video to be played on MTV. First national cable cast of a rock concert simulcast in stereo on both TV and radio. And produced the first two commercially released music videos. One that was nominated, and if I'm not mistaken, first ever Grammy Award for Best Short Form Videos back in '83.
Yeah, it's all a blur now.
Yeah, and Todd, and
we're talking 20 years ago.
One of the first Western artists to perform for the Chinese people. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. It's just
short
truly
attention span is all. There's not enough hours in the day.
Got to mention this too. Utopia, the bootleg series.
That's one of a whole series of archival releases. There's another one.
Live at the Forum from London in '94, and of course
the No World Order show, and that previous one I guess was Utopia, and then there's another one. Yeah. Oh, there's this Nazz one. There's also with my big band. There's a Live in Tokyo show, I believe, and and so we're going to continue to plumb that archive. Sanctuary Records is essentially doing the work, and I do the vetting, and I improve the sound to whatever degree it can be.
I want to stay with this. The idea of Todd Rundgren, Sanctuary Records. Talk about how it all came together and that marriage of your music and their label.
Well, we've been keeping an archive for some 30-plus years of any sort of live broadcast or live recording. Sometimes it's just recordings of our own. And sometimes it may be bootlegs that others have recorded that we somehow acquire. and it's been collecting for several years. And I think in the early 90s we made a deal with the Japanese label to release some of those shows, and they released maybe I think 3 or 4 different discs of oddments and rarities and live shows. And then that deal came to an end, and Sanctuary expressed some interest in acquiring the rights to plumb the archive, so that's what they've been doing. And they've got I think 4 releases out now. The NAS releases I was not directly involved in. That was under that's with the arrangement with, I believe, the lead singer of the NAS, if it's with anyone, I don't know. But the rest of them, essentially, they pick a show that they want to release, and then they send it to me for vetting, and I determine whether the performance, first of all, is good enough. Sometimes, well, particularly in these releases, the most important aspect is the performance, is not the sound. Indeed, some of them are only reference feeds from a video camera, if it was a video shoot, or perhaps a live feed from a radio show, which would have all the compression and everything on it.
Right.
Very rarely are they multi-tracks that can be remixed. So sometimes I have to do sound processing to get whatever it is that we have in the best possible shape audio-wise, and then they, in some cases, are going to go even further and do extractions for surround sound. They're going to be releasing some surround sound live shows, and also DVD video with surround
right.
as well.
Patronet.
Mm-hmm.
Why such a great experience for you?
Well, there's the current phenomenon that's happening in the music business is essentially implosion caused by, or ostensibly caused by, the popularity of file sharing. At least that's what record labels claim, is that the record industry is being forced to morph into something else because of technological advancement. But we were starting to experience this cramping. You know, the traditional record business is not very imaginative, and they often don't see, and if they do see, they often avoid technological advancements that they could be taking advantage of, but which would, of necessity, change their model, change the way that they do business. And some 10 or 12 years ago, I guess, during the No World Order phase, that was when I started to think in terms of on-demand music delivery, that the listener would be somehow attaching to a database of music and describe the kind of experience they want to have, and the contents of the database would automatically be ordered for you. And say you wanted to exercise and you wanted all the tempos to be 130 beats per minute or something like that, that would be all you'd necessarily have to tell such a system. So we were contracted to implement that in Orlando, the Warner Full Service Network experiment. And that was a test community that was fully wired for interactive television back in the early 90s. And they wanted us to develop a interactive music, on-demand music service for them. And of course, in order to do that, we have to have all the music on servers somewhere so that it can be delivered down a digital line to people's houses. And we went to all the major labels at the time, our special products division, and explained what we were trying to do, explained this is an experiment and what's going to happen in the future and stuff like that. And to a label and to a man, they, first of all, could not envision it, and second of all, refused to consider it, because it involved a different way of delivering music besides putting it on discs and sending it out to people. So they just did, even though it was technologically feasible and there was going to be a test of this sort of delivering music to people in the way that the internet now delivers music, they did not want to be involved. They declined to be involved. Subsequently, when Napster was invented, the option was taken away from them. It just wasn't their option anymore. But in the intervening time between those two events, between the time that the music industry declared its disinterest in any other form of delivery except traditional discs, and the time that Napster completely subverted that model, another phenomenon sort of crystallized for me, and that was the fact that artists who have been around as long as I have, who are in their later years as a performer, often drop completely off the radar because of the dynamics of the music industry. The money that's being spent on records is usually demographically centered somewhere around 21 to 25 years old.
Even earlier in some instances.
Even earlier if they have that disposable income.
Correct.
But usually, you know, kids don't get a job to get that money to buy records. You know,
But whereas the
they would spend their allowance on it.
Right.
You know, and that allowance was the money that their parents used to spend on records.
Right. But the labels are still gearing it, sometimes even
Oh, yeah.
skewing younger in the demo.
Oh yeah, well they skew younger because there's basically less discrimination, and they do consume more, and that consumption pattern starts to slack off somewhere around 30.
Exactly. Where you see the radio airplay also fall off at that point as well.
Exactly, and it doesn't matter whether you're doing something supposedly innovative or not. Kids want to hear kids their own age playing the music. So you don't get a whole lot of consideration the longer you are in the business. If you had a brilliant 5-year career, you got a good shot at a comeback sometime, you know, but you know, if you just sustain constantly, you know, you become a fixture and in some ways sort of boring to the industry, no matter what you're doing. And you don't really get a lot of consideration. So I thought, well, how are artists like me, of which there is an ever-increasing number, how do they continue to remain viable and get the wherewithal to make records when record labels start to abandon them?
And also have a voice to be heard in terms of their music.
Yeah, well, they can always go perform live, but there's a little bit more involved when you decide that you want to make recordings as well. Certainly you can make a fine living concentrating solely on the live part of it and only sell records at your own concerts if that's all you want to do.
Now, do you need a hook or reason, let's say, to draw you into a project such as Patronet?
Well, that was out of necessity, in a sense. I realized that if I was going to get continue to have any kind of significant support, first of all to make records, and second of all to in some way cover the other responsibilities that a record label has, which is mostly promotional and marketing considerations, that I needed to take advantage of what audience I had, and the internet was an ideal way to do that, a way to get connected to all of them and find out who they are, and also to hit on them in a sense for the kind of support that the record company no longer gives you, which is first of all direct support in terms of getting the money to record a record, and it costs a lot less to make a record than it used to do. But artists also have to change and realize, okay, there's the money to make the record, but you're not going to live off of record company advances like you used to do. You're going to have to go out and perform and play for these people who now support you. So the idea is they supplant in terms of the production aspects, and in some cases the promotional aspects of making new recordings. And also it gives the artist the benefit of knowing that there is an audience for what they do. That audience is awaiting everything that they record. And the difference for the audience, the value add for the audience, is they get to hear it before it reaches a conventional marketplace.